Cincinnati had a total net yards of 159 total net yards. Wow. But Denver had one of the highest numbers this week, 512. Welcome to Just the Stats NFL, the show that covers the NFL statistical leaders from the all-time greats to the current players leading the NFL. I'm Ernie Jennings, your host, and we wrap up week 4 with the second of 2 games that were on Monday night. This one's between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Denver Broncos. I sort of believe the idea of having 2 games on Monday night was that the first one was between Miami and the Jets. Neither team had a win, and I think they were thinking that might be a bad game, so let's put on another one and maybe we'll have one out of the 2 that are good. In actuality, the game between the 2 teams with no wins actually was a better game than the Cincinnati Bengals and the Denver Broncos. The Broncos won this game handily, 28-3. All right, let's take a look at this game. Let's look at the top 10s. For the Broncos, Sean Payton got another win. So he's moved into a tie for 7th all-time in wins for the Denver Broncos with 20. He had been tied with Vic Fangio. He's now tied with 20 with Lou Saban, coach of the Broncos way back in 1967-71. Next win will tie him with Gary Kubiak with 21. So that's his next goal. Move up into 6th. Looking at Courtland Sutton as he begins to continue to move up the list of receivers for the Denver Broncos. He needed 4 receptions to move into 8th place ahead of Riley Odoms, or to tie him. He actually got 5, so he's moved into 8th all by himself with 397 receptions. Next up is 7th place Emmanuel Sanders, who has 404. So he needs 7 catches to catch Sanders. He may not do it next week, but he could. If not, I'm sure he'll do it by the following week. Rod Smith is still the guy with 849 receptions. Now looking at one stat for the Bengals, another wide receiver, Jamar Chase, superstar himself. Now he has over 400 receptions. He was going into this game in 8th with 416 receptions. He got 5 more, so he's got 421, which is good enough to vault him all the way up into 6th place ahead of both Chris Collinsworth and Isaac Curtis. Past both of those players, he is now in 6th place by himself. Next up for him is 5th place TJ Houshmandzadeh. Played from 2001 to 2008, but he's got 507. So we're talking about another 86 receptions for Jamar Chase. It's possible he gets it by the end of the year. I'm assuming that the Bengals will be losing every game, or most of them, and they'll be passing as much as they can get away with. So Chase might catch Houshmandzadeh by the end of the year. But if he gets to 500, he is really pushing on 2-3 years more beyond that, and he should be able to catch Chad Johnson, who's number 1 for the Bengals all time with 751 receptions. All right, let's take a look at this game. Like I said, this was a blowout. It was only close after the first quarter. It was 7-3, but by halftime, Broncos were up 21-3, and Cincinnati never scored again after that first quarter 3-point field goal. Broncos tacked on another touchdown in the fourth quarter to make it 28-7. All right, let's look at some of the overall numbers. Wow, this is really rough. I mean, it's surprising that Denver only scored 28 points. They had 29 first downs to only 9 for Cincinnati. 9 first downs in the entire game. Cincinnati had a total net yards of 159 total net yards. Wow. But Denver had one of the highest numbers this week, 512 net yards in this game. 186 of those were rushing, while Cincinnati only had 53 yards rushing and 106 net yards passing. So Not good for Cincinnati. It's going to be a long season without Burrow. Another problem for Cincinnati, 11 penalties for 65 yards. Double-digit penalties doesn't help their situation at all. And on third down, 2 out of 11, 18%, while Denver was putting up a 8 for 14 for 57%. And one more negative game script for Cincinnati, and that is that Denver had the ball for almost 38 minutes to 22 for Cincinnati. So a huge difference there. 16 minutes. That defense was on the field most of the game for Cincinnati. Looking at the quarterbacks, Jake Browning, 14 completions on 25 attempts for 125 yards. Only threw it 5 yards per attempt. He was sacked 3 times in this game. He had a quarterback rating of 69.6, so not too good. 14 completions, you're losing the entire game, and there's only 14 completions, only 25 attempts, so that's kind of interesting. On the other hand, Denver's winning this entire game. He throws 29 completions on 42 attempts for 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. So a lot more passing by the team that dominated the score. Bo Nix ended up with a quarterback rating of 97.9. Looking at the running backs for the two teams, for Cincinnati, Chase Brown led the team by far, 10 attempts for 40 yards. So 40-yard average. That was it. Jake Browning had 3 carries for 4 yards. They had 15 total attempts, but Perrine had 1 and Izovius had 1. But that's it. 14 completions in this game for Jake Browning and a total of 15 rushes. Only 25 plays, where they move the ball. Looking at the Denver Broncos, J.K. Dobbins again led the team with 16 carries for 101 yards, 6.3 yards a carry. No touchdowns, though, but did have over 100 yards. R.J. Harvey had 14 carries himself for 58 yards, averaged 4.14. And he got a lot of those carries later in the game. After this game was salted away by the Broncos, they let Harvey had some carries in this game. Bo Nix carried the ball 6 times for 7 yards. One of them was a 6-yard touchdown run. And Marvin Mims had 1 carry for 16 yards, which was also a touchdown. All right. So they ended up rushing the ball 38 times for 186 yards, 4.89 yards carry, and 2 touchdowns as a team. Best game for them on the ground. Now, receiving, Jamar Chase had 5 catches on 8 targets, 5 catches, 23 yards. Nobody was getting downfield here at all. Chase Brown, 3 catches for 31 yards on 3 targets. And T. Higgins, 3 catches for 32 yards on 6 targets. So Chase and T. Higgins were targeted the most, 8 and 6 times respectively, but Jamar Chase had 5 of the 14 catches in here. Like I said, Brown and Higgins each had 3. No one had more than 1 after that. Just a rough game all the way around for this team. No touchdowns, obviously, only the 1 field goal. Now looking at Denver, Marvin Mims led the team, even over Courtland Sutton, at least as far as receptions go. They both had 6 targets, but Marvin Mims had 6 catches for 69 yards. But Courtland Sutton did more with his 5 catches, 81 yards, and 1 touchdown. So big game for him. Really a good game. And then Evan Ingram was targeted actually more times than both of those, was 7 times, but he only had 4 catches for 29 yards. Now, this is him coming back to play, and so we'll see what he does next week. But 4 catches, 29 yards. Troy Franklin actually led the team in targets with 8, but had 4 catches for 55 yards. And then R.J. Harvey coming out of the backfield had 4 catches for 40 yards. One of those was a touchdown. So Courtland Sutton had the touchdown, and Harvey had a receiving touchdown as well, the 2 of them. So those are your top plays. J.K. Dobbins did have 1 catch out of the backfield, but only 4 yards. That is a look at the offenses for the 2 teams. One the Broncos were impressive. Cincinnati's just, it's going to be a bad year for them. Sad to say if you're a Bengals fan. Now looking at the defenses. Demetrius Knight for Cincinnati Bengals had 10 tackles, 6 solo, 4 assists. Geno Stone also had 10 tackles, 4 solo, 6 assists. Those were your top two. And Demetrius Knight also had an interception in this game. So he had a big game, biggest game for the team. They didn't sack quarterback at all in this game. For the Denver Broncos, one player stood out above the rest by far. Alex Singleton had 11 tackles, 6 solo, 5 assists. Now, obviously, you're not going to see a lot of tackles here because the Bengals were only on the field for 22 minutes, so not even enough time. They did get 3 sacks on the quarterback, 1.5 by Nick Bonito, and then 1 also by John Franklin Myers. So got him the sacks, and like I said, Alex Singleton had the big game here as far as tackles go. That's a look at this game. It was not much to brag about for a Monday night game. Neither one really was. You're talking about 4 teams on Monday night, with a combined win total of 2. So wasn't that impressive. Well, actually 4. I guess it was 4 wins between. It was the Broncos and the Bengals made it a little more interesting. But their game was a blowout by the Broncos, so that wasn't much to watch either. Next week might be a different story when you have the Kansas City Chiefs at the Jacksonville Jaguars. But to wrap up this game, Broncos win at 28-3. Denver Broncos lead this series 23 games to 12. Next up for the Broncos is a tough game for them. They go from an easy game to a tough game, and they're playing at the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. So Eagles are 4-0, one of the last couple of teams that are undefeated going against the 2-2 Broncos. For the Bengals, they also have a tough game. They're playing the Lions, who are 3-1, but at least they're playing in Cincinnati. Bengals are 2-2. So 2 tough games for these 2 teams. All right, that's a wrap for this game and for all the games in week 4. You can go back and listen to previous podcasts on YouTube at Just the Stats NFL if you want to listen to any of the other games. You can find me on Spotify or Apple Podcasting, any of your podcast apps. And you can contact me at justthestatnfl@gmail.com. Appreciate you listening. I appreciate it also if you subscribe and like this. And if you have any comments, good, bad, whatever, I will respond. I'm always trying to improve the podcast. So if you have any suggestions, I'm willing to listen. All right. That is a wrap. I'll talk to you tomorrow on Wednesday where I cover the standings and stats for the week and see how everybody's doing through 4 weeks. All right. That's it. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.